Hi, this is Tim Yoder with Fit Small Business. Today I'll be evaluating ZipBooks, the sophisticated plan, for Chapter 2 of the Fit Small Business case study, which deals with accounts payable. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is record a utility bill from the New York City Electric Company for $150. The bill payment function in ZipBooks is under our Transactions tab, which if I were the designer, I would call it an accounting tab perhaps. But down here we have bills. So let's go to our bills. We're going to add our first bill by tapping this green plus button up here. Okay. Wow, so this is all set up like a bill. So we can call this our New York City Electric Company. Okay, so we don't have a vendor set up yet, and so it looks like we can add one on the fly, I like to call it. So it's not there, so we can click add. And this is going to bring up our new vendor contact information. In real life, of course, you'd want to take time to fill all of this out. I'm not going to take the time. Notice here you can click 1099 contractor. So if this is the type of individual you'd have to issue a 1099 for the amount you pay them, then you would click that so the program automatically tracks your payments. So for instance, if they are an independent contractor performing work, then you'd want to track payments to them. Okay, so let's just hit save, and that's our electric company. We're just going to allow today's bill date. So we should have a bill number on here. I'm a little surprised it's not automatically issuing a bill number, but let's just start with 1,000, and maybe next bill it'll automatically populate that. When is it going to be due? I would rather be able to set terms. Oh, this is all very manual. Notes. Okay. Well, let's say the terms are net 30. We're not going to have any notes. Oh, I'm sorry. So let me think about this here. This is a bill. Yeah, so this bill number is not going to be generated by our system. This is the bill number we're getting off of their bill. So we receive a bill, and we're going to enter the bill number here. It is kind of, and then usually you can select the term that's shown on the bill, and it'll automatically calculate the due date. But here we'll just look at their bill. Hopefully it'll give us a specific due date. If it just gives us the terms, then we're going to have to calculate the due date based on the terms. But we'll just say the due date is February 28th, 2022. Well, that's not what I said. Okay, you know what? This must be, you must have to put the, here, so it must be, see, so put 28th as the year. So it must be the year first. No, you know what? I'm just going to select it. Okay, there we go. So our item is electric. Our category is utilities. So utilities, it looked like that wasn't already set up. Let's see if they already have something set up. Okay, they don't. So let's start typing utilities here, and it actually gives us an account that'll activate that account, I believe. And so the amount was $150. And now we want to tag this as an expense for admin. Now in the last chapter we set up our department tabs. Now how am I supposed to add a tab to this? Let's hit save, see if maybe it's, and here you can see if I wanted to, I could add a PDF copy of the bill. So that's an easy way to be able to find the original bill if you have questions later, or if there's perhaps a revenue person looking for proof of your deduction, you can attach a bill right here. Okay, it's showing that it's open and that we have $150 due, but I don't see how to attach a tag. Let's make sure our tags are there. So I'm going to go to tags. Yeah, we do have these custom tags. Now, how in the world do we attach them? So let me do a little bit of research. Okay, so I've done a little research, and I believe we're going to end up tagging. So if we go to transactions, there are no transactions yet. So recording an unpaid bill is not considered a transaction, and so we won't be able to tag it until we actually pay the bill. So that brings up a very interesting question. Is this unpaid bill going to show up on our balance sheet as an accounts payable? Yes, it does. Okay, very good. So it shows up as our accounts payable. However, we can't tag the expense part of that. So let's look at our income statement. Okay, so we have $150 of office expense, but we can't tag that because it's not a cash expense yet. So that's very odd. So we can report our income statement on our balance sheet on an accrual basis, but we can only apply our tags on a cash basis. So that could create some difficulty. So if you're assigning expenses to a project based on tags, you can't see those expenses in your project until they're actually paid. Okay, so that's not ideal. Okay, so we will add a tag to our utility bill once we pay it. Okay, so let me do the scorecard real quick for us here. So creating a vendor was a piece of cake. Recording expense without paying it. Yes, we can do that. Record the due date, attach a copy of the receipt, send a copy through the app. I'm not sure. We'll look at the app later. Okay, the receipt is only attached, and so you saw we had to fill out everything by hand, and then you can just simply attach a picture of it. So it doesn't read the receipt and automatically fill out the invoice. Okay, good. So record a recurring monthly expense of $150 for telephone service. The expense is automatically paid from the checking account. Okay, so can we create recurring expenses? And I believe that we can. At least we can do recurring invoices. So let's go back to our transactions. Recurring. Okay, let's try to create a new recurring transaction. Okay, this should work. So we're going to go ahead and pay it today and schedule it to be paid on the 28th of each month. Okay, so it recurs monthly. We're going to call this our monthly telephone bill. Okay, we're going to debit telephone expense for $150, and we are going to credit our checking account for $150. Okay, now here we can actually add a tag to it, and so we will add a tag of administrative, and we want this to be the New York City, which is actually just the parent company's name when we set the tags up. Okay, so we're able to tag both the department and the location, and it's going to recur monthly, and hit save. Okay, so it automatically, now sometimes you'll be able to, in some programs you can tell it specifically which day of the month to use. Here it automatically used the day that we originally set it up, so it's the 28th of each month. Okay, let's see what these options are here. Okay, and that just pulls up what we already had. Okay, so yes, so we can do a recurring transaction. So it's basically just a recurring journal entry. So you could do just about any kind of recurring transaction. Now it's not going to send out a recurring invoice, but it'll automatically, if you have a customer that has an automatic payment with you set up, you could record that recurring payment as a journal entry here, but you're not going to be able to create a recurring invoice that gets sent to them every month, at least not with this function. So perhaps when we look at invoices, we'll find a different way to do that. Okay, now let's look at the inventory accounting a little bit, and I don't think it really has inventory accounting, but I believe we can at least set up an item for our inventory that we purchase. So is that under invoices maybe? Yeah, so under invoices they have items. We want to set up an inventory item. Okay, and we are going to call this our plumbing widgets. So that's our inventory. We have an inventory of plumbing widgets. Now it looks like we can set up items to be used on invoices or bills. So we want plumbing widgets to be on both because we're going to buy them and then we're going to sell them. So I guess we'll set up the item for the invoice first. When we sell plumbing widgets, we're going to sell them for $25. Group, I don't know what they want there. Our default category, when we sell them, will be going into the sales account. Okay. But we're not really able, so this is basically, all this is doing is saving us a little bit of time when we create an invoice. It's not properly accounting for it as an inventory item, because if it were an inventory item, it would actually, at the same time it records the sales revenue, it would pull the inventory, it would remove the inventory from your inventory balance and turn it into cost of goods sold. And so it can't do that. So it's not really an inventory item at all. This just saves us a little bit of time on our invoices. Okay, well, let's go ahead and set up it for our bills as well, because it will save us a little bit of time. So plumbing widgets purchased. We have to make it something different than when we invoice it. So when we purchase them, they're going to be purchased at $10, and we want this item to show up on bills. A lot of programs will have one item that can show up on either invoices or bills, and you're allowed to put the different prices into the same item. This cannot. And when we purchase it, we want it to go into inventory. Okay, it's not allowing that so we're going to go ahead, we're going to put it directly to cost of goods sold, but this is incorrect. So at the end of the year, you're going to have to manually calculate what your cost of goods sold is or what your inventory is and do an adjusting journal entry. So this program will not account for inventory correctly. It will not calculate the cost of goods sold for you. We're putting our purchases to cost of goods sold. That's not correct. It should only be the inventory that was purchased and sold. So, okay. But those items will at least help us fill out our forms a little bit faster. Okay, so let's do our scorecard here. Can you do a recurring item, recurring expense? Yes. Create an inventory item? No. So you can create an item, but it is not an inventory item. It does not treat it as inventory. Okay. Back to our case study. So we want to record a purchase order for 150 plumbing widgets from the widgets guy. So I don't believe that we can do purchase orders. But let's go back to our expenses, our transactions. So we can do sales, expenses. Under bills, there is no way to make purchase orders. Okay, so we can't do purchase orders, so we're just going to have to skip that part. So now of those 150 orders of widgets we ordered, we received 100 of the widgets for $10 per unit. Okay, so let's create a bill from the widgets guy. Okay, we don't need to enter any of that for our purposes. Look at his bill, and he sent us a bill with that number on it. Let's say the bill is due in 30 days. Oh, they have some weird format, so we'll just select the date by hand. So now instead of, oh, here we go. So it automatically pops up our items we've set up. So I'm going to click plumbing widgets purchased. Oh, it looks like here we could add a brand new item if we don't have the item already set up. It's carried the amount of $10, but it doesn't let us enter a it doesn't let us enter a quantity. Yeah, that's not very useful. So for our purchases, rather than, so my choice here, when I set it up, it didn't give me a choice to put it into inventory. It said it has to go to cost of goods sold. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going with that. We're going to charge all of our purchases directly to cost of goods sold, and then at the end of the year, actually it's not even letting me select anything. Oh, there it goes. So we're just going to put it directly to cost of goods sold. At the end of the year, we'll have to calculate the cost amount of our ending inventory and make a journal entry. And calculating that cost of ending inventory is not going to be easy at all. So if you have inventory, significant inventory at all, ZipBooks isn't going to be the right program. You're going to have to spend a little bit more money for a program to handle inventory, like QuickBooks Online, Xero, or Zoho Books. Those are all three good inventory software. Okay. So here we can't even put quantity, so we're just going to have to change. We're going to have to calculate it by hand here. So we have 100 widgets, $10 per widget. That's $1,000 we're spending on our inventory. Again, we can't tag this yet. Hopefully we'll be able to tag it when we pay it. Okay. So now we want to view inventory units available, and on purchase order we can't do that because it didn't even allow us to put the number of units, so it's doing nothing with inventory units. Okay, so let's fill out our scorecard for this. We don't have any purchase orders. We were able to create the bill for the purchase of inventory, but we can't view inventory available or on purchase order or the cost of the inventory on hand or the units of the inventory on hand. Okay. Now we have one more inventory transaction we want to look at. We received, so remember we ordered 150 even though we weren't able to record the purchase order. So we received the remaining 50 widgets, but they charge us $11 per unit for those. So that would be the same kind of transaction we just entered. So I'm not even going to worry about entering it. It doesn't do us any good because we're not tracking inventory. Okay, so let's move on from inventory. Now let's look at their project accounting, and they do have some project accounting in ZipBooks. So let's see. So we want to create a project for our customer who is Family Bowling, and we want to name this particular project for Family Bowling. We want to name it Bathroom Renovation. So let's go to, we have not looked at our contacts directly. So let's create a customer. Can we not, I guess we can't specify what type of contact it is. Okay, so we will just make it Family Bowling, but we can't specify vendor versus customer, which is probably fine. So we'll save Family Bowling. Okay, now under, I believe it was in our tags area, is where we can create a project. So no, not our items, it's our tags. That was under transactions. Here we go, tags. Okay, we want to create a project tag. So let's add a tag, and we are going to call it bathroom renovation. Okay, so we can't really specify that this project is for a particular contact. Location, department, product type. Well, it's not allowing us to show this as a project here. Okay, so let's cancel it. I think there was another place to do this project stuff. I think I saw under time tracking the ability to set up some projects. Here we go. Okay, so projects under time tracking. Let's add one. Okay, so the project name is bathroom renovation. And the contact is family bowling. We don't want that project to be used with any contact. It's only for family bowling. We can actually just set an overall budget amount, no detail. We can get billing method, etc. We can give it a parent project. Okay, and this is a billable project, and these are the team members that are going to be working on it. Okay, so we can save our project. Oh, I guess we can't have a billing method blank. We're going to have a flat amount. So this program allows you to track time of employees and assign it to projects. So we have to say what we're going to bill it for. So it does allow you, if you have employees, to track their time and assign it to projects. We're not evaluating that function. In this case study, we'll just be paying some independent contractors and assigning those payments to the project. Okay, so now we're going to pay a gentleman named Hank Independent. He's going to be an independent contractor. We're going to pay him for contract labor. So let's first, actually we'll do this what I call on the fly here. So let's go to our transactions. We're going to add him on the fly to our contact list. We're going to go to bills. Let's enter a new bill. And the vendor is going to be Hank Independent. Let's add him. Down here, let's select, he's a 1099 contractor, so we track his payments so we can issue him a 1099 at the end of the year. Here we're going to add a new item. Oh, I guess that's not what that's for. Okay, so we're going to have to go somewhere. We're going to have to add the item first. So the item was under invoices, I believe. Okay, so we want to add another item. We're probably going to have two, because again, we're going to have to pay him for contract labor paid. Okay, and we are going to pay him a rate of $30 an hour. Okay, and that will be on bills. And we are going to put that to the expense of, let's see, contract labor. Here we go, contractor salaries and wages. Okay, click save. Now we need to add a separate item to show up on invoices. Okay, and when we bill, his labor is going to be at $80 an hour. That's going to show up on invoices. Okay, oh, and let's just show it as sales. Okay, very good. So now let's go back and enter the bill. So bills from Hank Independent. It's going to be due today, we'll say. It is going to be for contract labor paid. It's $30 an hour, but we're going to pay him for 40 hours, so that is $1,200. Okay, there we go, and there is our bill. Now again, we still can't let's see. You know what? Let's see if we can do this a different way. So we're actually going to pay him today on the 28th. So rather than putting it in here as a bill, let's see if we can enter it directly as an expense rather than showing it as a bill and then paying the bill. Okay, so expense, and we're going to add an expense manually. So the transaction date is there. We're going to say this is Hank Independent, amount of $1,200. So here we can't use our items that we set up, and it's going to come from our checking account, and we want it to be to the contractor salaries and wages. And so our tags now are going to be let's do this to, we're going to tag it to our HVAC department, our New York location, which is just under fit plumbing, and our bathroom renovation as the project. Okay, so those are all three of our tags. Okay, and save. Okay, there we go. Okay. So here now that we're doing unconfirmed, these are showing up. I'm wondering if we can add tags to these. Now it looks like this is a bill, so it hasn't been paid yet. I wonder if we click on it. Yeah, now we can add tags. So we couldn't add tags originally, so this is good. So this solves that problem. So we can use tags even for accrual transactions. So the cash hasn't been paid yet. So let's tag this to our plumbing department, and this time let's say it was our Delaware location. Okay. Very good, and we can add our tags for this. This was admin, and our New York location, which we just have under the kind of home office name. Okay, there we go. So that's unfortunate. We can't add those tags when we're actually entering the bill. Okay. Okay, so we pay a $200 permit fee, and we're going to pass this expense through to the customer. Okay, so let's set up a I'm not even going to bother setting up. I was going to set up an item. I'm not even going to bother setting up the item because it's really not doing anything other than making it a little bit simpler to enter the bill. So I'm just going to set up, we pay a $200 permit fee. So that's another expense. Okay, it's paid from our checking account. The amount is $200. The category is permit fees. So we can add that. Parent category, let's put that under cost of goods sold. Here, this is cool. So pass through to customer, family bowling, and that's a big one that a lot of people don't, a lot of programs don't have that. So we can pass this through to the customer, family bowling. Expense name, we'll just call it permit fee for project. Okay, and we can do vendor and other tags. So it was paid to like New York City probably. I'm not going to worry about putting the vendor tag, but we definitely want to put a tag for the, this is an HVAC project, so let's put a tag for the HVAC department. This is a New York project, so let's put the tag for the home office location. And let's tag, and this is an important one, the project, which is our bathroom renovation. Okay, very good. So let's hit save. And now I want to go back here because the $1,200 to Hank Independent, I also want to pass that through to the customer. So let's hit save here. And now let's go back and look at this. Why is this one red and this one's green? Let's do an edit. Let's look at the advanced view perhaps. So it looks like at this point it's too late to, looks like it's too late to make it billable to the customer. Oh, you know what? I accidentally made this a deposit. That's why it's showing up as red. Okay, so we are obviously going to need to delete this. So we'll see how difficult that is. I'm going to click the box here. There we go, and delete it. Okay, now let's set it up as an expense. Let's go add expense paid from checking, $1,200, contract labor, call it here contract labor. Okay, and this is an HVAC project out of the home office for the bathroom renovation. Okay, and we want to pass it through to the customer. Very good, and we'll hit save. Okay, now in our next chapter where we work with invoicing, hopefully that contract labor and that permit fee will be available when we make an invoice in order to just kind of automatically add it. Okay, so now let's look and see if we can view the unpaid bills. So if we go down here to bills, can we see that these, yes, so these show as open. That means they're unpaid. Good. We can also probably change the status to open, so now it would show only those bills that are open. Okay, so we can view the unpaid bills. We can view a list of vendors under our contacts. Although I don't know that it won't indicate their vendors. All your contacts are just going to be together. But we can see our top vendors here. So let's take a look at that. That actually could be kind of confusing. So we'll go to contacts. Yeah, it doesn't show. Yeah, there we go, vendors. Okay, there we can separate. So when you enter a contact, you don't enter whether it's a vendor or a customer, but I think if you pay them for something, they'll show up as a vendor. If you receive money from them on an invoice, they'll show up as a customer. So it kind of automatically classifies them. View a list of transactions by vendor. So if I click on a vendor here, will it show me my transactions? So we have no invoices, no estimates, no recurring stuff. Interesting. So it doesn't show, it shows certain things, invoices and estimates, but it doesn't show all of our transactions. Interesting. So I'd like to be able to see those transactions. Okay. Very good. View unpaid billed by vendor. Again, we can't do that either. We can see unpaid invoices. So for our customers, we could see what they owe us, but there's nowhere here that shows us how much our vendor owes us. The only way to look at that would be going to our bills, and then, but I guess we can sort here. We can sort here by vendor. So I guess that's good enough. Okay, so let's do some scoring here. So yes, we can create a project. We can track payments to 1099 contractors. We can create a service item. We can set the default cost of that. We can set the default sales price. But I tell you what, I'm going to give a half a point because you have to create two separate items, which is a bit unusual and unhandy. So we can pay the independent contractor using the service item. We can designate the payment as billable to a customer. Okay. We can designate it as billable to a project by tagging that project. We can view expenses. Okay, view expenses incurred but not yet billed. So this would be, so we've assigned those, the contract labor and the permit, we've assigned those to the we've assigned those to be billed to clients, but we haven't billed them yet. So can we get a list of that? And I believe we actually can under reports, but let's look under transactions and see if there's a different place to do it. Not seeing anything right here. Okay, so let's go to reports. Billable expenses. Okay, so it's showing the billable expense to family bowling for the bathroom for those permit fees, and it's showing them as being unbilled. Why isn't it showing the same for our contract labor? Here we go. I have to choose which pass through to family bowling. Save. Okay, there we go. Now reports, billable expenses, and there we go. These are the expenses for family bowling that we have not yet billed. Perfect. That's actually something a lot of software kind of in this price range doesn't do. So that's a nice plus of ZipBooks. View unpaid bills, view vendors, unpaid bills by vendor, transactions by vendor. I'm only going to give half a point because it doesn't allow you to see all of the transactions, like expenses billed directly to vendors. I'm sorry, expenses. Expenses that are entered directly, not through the bill payment, you won't be able to see anywhere. Okay. Good. So moving on. So record the electronic payment of the utility bill. So remember, we entered a utility bill, the very first from New York City Electric for $150. We're going to pay that electronically, say through a completely different system, not through the software, and we just need to record the payment. Okay, so if we go to our bills, here is we have an unpaid bill of $150. Let's click on it, and then let's add a payment. Okay, now notice if we want to, we could pay something less than $150. Okay, and in fact, I am going to go ahead and do that. So instead of $150, I'm only going to pay them $100. Okay, and we're going to pay it from our checking account. Okay, and log payment. Okay, now let's go back to our bills homepage here. Okay, so it's weird. So it doesn't show it as open, so there's a separate status for partial. Okay, so it no longer shows it open, but it's partial. So we've paid 100 of 150. We still owe 50. So what happens if we pull it up here? Okay, there it shows we paid 50 and we still owe another 50. So let's go ahead and no, let's not do that. Let's say we still owe them $50. Okay, so good. We call that a short payment. We're able to make a short payment on an invoice. Okay, good. Now, so let's go ahead and score that. So we were able to record the e-payment of the bill, and we were able to short pay an invoice. Okay, now let's see if we can print a check from the program. I don't think we can. Let me do a little bit of research on that. Okay, I'm back. And so it's as I thought. ZipBooks is like a lot of the other software in this price range. It's not designed to print checks. And so really the way the program is mostly designed to work is by you conducting all of your business with credit or debit cards. And then then you hook up your banks to your software, and then all the transactions flow through after they've cleared the bank. So it's really not set up in the old-fashioned way of you write checks and then you record the checks, and then they eventually clear the bank, and then that's when you reconcile them. So it's really designed to run all the expenses through your bank and from your bank then into your software. Although you can enter, like we have been doing, you can enter expenses manually, but you're not going to be able to print checks. Okay. Let's see what else we've got to look at here. Okay, we want to see if our vendor can issue us a vendor credit, and I have not seen anything about that. So let's say our utility company owes us $50. So they've billed us for that $150, and now we're saying we need a vendor credit from them for $150, and I don't believe there's any way to do that. Yeah, I haven't seen any sort of function for vendor credits, so we're not going to be able to do that. So you'll just have to find a workaround if you run into that situation. So in this case, where we're trying to get them to forgive us the $50, then I would just go in and change this amount from 150 to 100 so we no longer owe anything. But that's not at all ideal because it doesn't leave us the paper trail of what happened. And so I'd rather not do that. I'd rather record a credit memo from New York City Electric, but that's not going to be possible in this program. Okay, so let's go ahead and do scoring for the rest of this chapter. So we can't print a program, we can't print a check. There's really not even a place to put the check number in the register when we record the expense. We can't record a credit from the vendor. There were some additional requirements for inventory that we didn't even address because it does nothing with inventory. It wasn't able to do a vendor credit, so we couldn't apply it to an invoice. Subjective ease of use. So I'm actually going to give it a really good ease of use score, partially because it doesn't have a lot of features, which the upside of not having a lot of features is that it makes it a lot easier to use. And so I would say from 1 to 10, I'm going to give it an ease of use of like 0.9. It really doesn't get much easier to use than that. You know what? I'm going to do 0.8 because the project, I actually like how other programs do the project in classes where rather than just having to enter a whole bunch of tags at the end, you can actually have drop-down boxes and select the tags. So we'll do a 0.8, but it's pretty easy to use. So not bad at all. So that is chapter 2 for our Fit Small Business case study of ZipBooks, the sophisticated plan.